Okay, so today I'm back in the salubrious surroundings of the Curzon Street Mayfair Star Sports office with Matthew Trenhaile, at Trench to his friends. Matthew, this is the third one, including the Q&A we did, so thanks very much for agreeing to talk to us again. Since we last met, you've left Pinnacle and set up your own business, Anubis, is that the correct pronunciation?
Anubis,
Anubis
yeah.
Trading Limited, and Anubis was the god of funeral rites. Should we read anything into that business name?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Simon, for having me back. Very flattered that anyone would want to hear me wax lyrical. First of all, must just say, only fair, I put a bit of business Mr. Keith's way on coming to his shop. So there we go, 8th of April, 24. If all the Newcastle favourites place, 50 to 1. Best thing about this is that after this goes out, someone's either A, going to come back and say, yeah, bet for SP, 3,000 to 1 this should have been, or, you know, shrewdest bet in the world. I think I know which side I'm on. Anyway, so yeah, so Anubis, yeah, Egyptian god of funeral rites. Generally chosen because two things. One, he's a massive judge, because what he has to do is basically weigh your heart after your life's over. And, you know, if it's heavier than the feather of justice, whatever you want to call it, gets thrown to the crocodile god to be eaten. And if it's lighter than the feather, off you go into the land of the dead and enjoy yourself under Osiris. So yeah, so from my perspective, is you know, making a judgment call. And I think so much of trading and risk management decisions is essentially something's happened, you've got to make a judgment call as to what you do next. And whether that is to do with customers, bets you've taken, whatever it is, trading is just a succession of one after another of judgment calls you've got to make based on what information you have. It also did slightly amuse me that Anubis is a massive after-timer, clearly, because you're dead, there's nothing you can do about it. And so, yeah, so he's just going to make a call on that. But yeah, that's that, and also jackal head, you know, similar-ish muzzle profile to a greyhound, different ears, obviously. But yeah, no, it just appealed to me. And, you know, for those people who want to read into public school boys naming their businesses after mythical gods or whatever, then, yeah, there's that angle as well.
So can you tell us anything about why you've decided to go it alone and why you have now?
So decided to go it alone. This is sort of me taking a punt on myself, I suppose. I know some people have speculated as to why I never tried professional punting before. This is a bit of a punt, really. I'm basically backing the idea that people want to pay me for sort of 20 odd years experience. This for me is big risk by my standards. But yeah, I just sort of felt like this was sort of the right time. You know, I'm 42 now, and it's a way to sort of slightly uncap my upside, I suppose. As an employee, you're inevitably always going to be slightly narrowed as to like how far you can go to a degree. And the reality is that here, if I'm rubbish at it, it'll be back in the, you know, back begging the bookmakers to get me a job. And if I'm really good at it, potentially could, you know, could work out very well for me. So, so yeah, and I think just a lot of times I've had people say to me like, can you advise me on X or Y? Being able to be very fortunate to give people good advice that's benefited them. And I thought, yeah, maybe I could do this as a job, who knows?
So your customers will be predominantly bookmakers?
So I didn't as yet want to restrict myself either side of the counter. I think that there are bookmakers who I can definitely help. There are B2B suppliers, I've experienced in that regard, so people who want to provide particularly odds and trading services to bookmakers. And to be honest, you know, if you know, Star Lizard or a syndicate reached out to me and said, can you help with this, then I'd have no problem with that either. If I work with one, does the other one never want to work with me? I've got to be honest, that's in the back of my mind, obviously. But I'm, you know, I definitely feel that I know, you know, the bookmaking side of it, you know, pretty decently, and the market making side of things. So I probably would expect more likely to get a request from them. You know, if you're a successful syndicate, can I add much to you? Who knows? But yeah, I don't rule out either side. But you know, some bloke punting in his garage, I'm probably not going to be able to step in and give him life coaching or anything like that, I don't think.
Okay, so you're massively respected in the industry and beyond as a judge. So, well, you are. I mean, you know, so at the time of doing this interview, you're a one-man business. So do the bookies need to be aware of you, sort of a gamekeeper turned poacher, prowling their markets to sort of enhance your wealth?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm not a big bettor at this point. Never really have been that big. So I would say that the appeal for me has always been the bookmaking side. I'm very interested in playing the hard game in my mind of adverse selection against you. So just in terms of like what gets me excited, I like that. But any betting I do nowadays, you know, would be done via the exchanges, predominantly, I'd imagine. So yeah, so I don't think they need to worry too much about me. But if they did see me, you know, if they saw my meager 5s and 10s coming through the ticker, then yeah, it's a cheap mark. If I am indeed a massive judge, then yeah, it's a pretty cheap marker, I'd say. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried if I was a bookmaker. Okay,
so you've already told us that this is your stab at professional punting to start in Anubis anyway.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
People do ask, and they are bound to ask, and I'm interested, have you ever considered actually just throwing it all into being a professional punter?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the closest I came was there was a period where I was out of work for about 6 months, and I was doing a sort of variety of bits and pieces. I was, you know, doing some punting for someone else. I was giving my tissue for golf at the time to other people, doing some just other angles, bits and pieces. And yeah, just for me, brutally stressful. You know, it's one of those things. There's this issue whereby in all walks of life, sometimes you can do everything right and not get the result, but it's just so amplified within professional punting. Your process can be impeccable day after day, and you can just get no reward for it. Now, arguably, you can do a job very, very well day after day. No one pats you on the back for that either, maybe, because they just say they expect it of you. But I do think that what is nice, at least for, you know, working for myself as a proxy for this, is that I think that if I work really hard and I really do well by people, that should, you know, give an outsized return, I hope, for me. But yeah, I mean, I have definitely considered it. I think probably the missed opportunity for me was probably trying to be some sort of organizational piece for lots of other people who are much smarter than me. I quite like sort of the organization side of things, you know, quite like a budgeting spreadsheet, that kind of thing. So possibly with the people I know, the sensible thing would have been you focus on doing your tissues, pricing things up, and I'll focus on, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not the one running around a betting shop or whatever, but, you know, I'll focus on finding the right people to help us get on, the right way to do these things. That probably was the admin man for a small syndicate, probably would have been the way to go. Is it too late? I don't know, maybe not. But I'm pretty focused on what I'm doing now as the thing I'm going to be doing.
Okay, now this probably wouldn't have affected Pinnacle when you were working with them, but it's sort of a worrying time for the bookmaking industry of all these, the scrutiny on the checking where people's money's come from, you know, needing to see their bank details and people being reluctant to hand them over. Is that just a worrying time for a small percentage of people who actually win, and horse racing or the bookmaking industry in general?
So personal privacy in general, like this is like a broader topic, really. You know, I right now, you know, if you have a Google account, they're harvesting your information. If you've got an Alexa smart speaker like me, you know it's listening to you. You know, you say something to your missus and then you're getting suggested that product the next day in some adverts or whatever. You know, I've applied for credit cards. People have done infinite, you know, when you first get somebody's like Credit Karma or whatever credit checking service and you see the number of soft checks done on you just for like these things. I had a car on PCP, mortgage, whatever. You know, people are sort of constantly, you know, Facebook, you know, people are constantly like harvesting your data and getting in your business. And I think if you're someone who's taken a strong stand against this, you know, if you've like got, you know, Proton Mail and, you know, you've done everything to try and conceal the information from other people, then you're sort of in that situation where you've always been against the idea of this sort of invasion of your own personal information. And so therefore, if a bookmaker wants extra information about you, that's just, you know, another thing for you to be against. But the idea that now bookmakers wanting to sort of have this level of information about you, I mean, they already got plenty of information just by you logging in, giving your name and address, you know, like they already can build a reasonably decent credit profile almost just from, you know, your postcode tells you, like, one of the key models in, you know, your car insurance, when an insurance company gives you a quote for your car insurance, one of the key, you know, coefficients within that is your postcode. The bookmaker gets that as well. So, you know, there's already like a lot of information that they can, that you give them already, that they're going to utilize to determine, you know, how good a customer you're going to be. And when you say how good a customer, you can take that whichever way. So, do I think that this is, sorry, was the question
is it just
a problem
for the people that win because they don't want people to see who's, I don't know, you know, is it the people that lose probably going to be quite happy just to?
So I think, you know, so there's lots of questions, you know, it's a complex area. So there's right now, if you're on Twitter, there's people who have won, are trying to withdraw money, and they're being caught in this, you know, proof of funds type scenario. So there's things at play. There's the money laundering laws, there's responsible gaming, there's sort of myriad of reasons that these checks happen at bookmakers. One thing you have to remember is that bookmakers have had an absolute golden era of, you know, under regulation, essentially. There aren't actually, if you think about it, many businesses where you put money in and receive money out. There aren't. Most of the times you put money into something, you get an object, you get a service. But, you know, bookmakers are literally something whereby you can deposit money with them and take out more money or less money. But literally all that's happened in terms of the external visibility of the banking organizations is money has gone in, money has gone out. It's semi-incredible, really, that bookmaking has gone this long already without heavy introspective, like, you know, heavy investigative measures, you know, like any financial institution goes through as to like the flow of money. You know, you look in Italy right now, if you want to have a license in Italy, you have to set up your bookmaker so it submits every single bet that's placed into a black box, basically, that the Italian like organized crime institute like has access to. You know, this was done literally because the mafia was laundering so much money through Italy, through betting shops, etc. So, you know, there's no point sort of getting away from the fact that, you know, the very nature of how bookmakers run and the money flows, it makes entirely a lot of sense to have even more like checks than we've had for the last. We've literally had this wonderful period where, you know, I go back 20 years, literally deposit with one bank card, call up, you know, can remove, you know, another bank. So that's probably in part two, I will have to continue on with this, basically.